In this podcast, we review the 2022-2023 season for the final time this season. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is all your Boro Matchday chatter in a pod.
Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Avenelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Avenelli spots out. Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast, the season review show with Jonny, Dana and Tom. And we are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro matchday chatter in a podcast. And the season's ended. Middlesbrough finished fourth in the championship and then lose out in the playoff semi-finals to Coventry, who go on to play Luton in the playoff final at Wembley. Breaking our hearts and dreams at the Riverside. And it was all sadness at the end of it. But guys, it's been a couple of weeks since we've all recorded together. Been about over a week since Boro's season finished, but just wanted to get your feelings on the season in general. Dana, how are you feeling about the 2022-2023 season in as many words as you like?
It's difficult to summarise it, I think, because of the way that it ended. That's very much at the forefront of my mind. Of course, on today of all days, we're recording this on Saturday, the 27th of May, in which the playoff final is being played. So it sucks that we're recording our season review show today when we all would have loved and hoped so dearly to be in the capital at Wembley Stadium right now. I guess the season blossomed from the disappointment under Chris Wilder to promise under Michael Carrick and then swung back to disappointment at the very end. But I don't want to focus so much on that feeling of disappointment at the end, because I think that, certainly in football anyway, has connotations that the team have let the fans down. And I wouldn't subscribe to that with this team. There is, however, an overarching sense of loss. Obviously losing the playoff semis, losing the chance to get back into the Premier League, losing a chance to redeem the 2015 playoff final, and also the loss of what was genuinely a really good squad to watch and a really likeable squad in that. I was hanging around the car park when the players were exiting and, you know, Alex Mowatt walked past, Cameron Archer walked past, Ryan Giles was on the far side signing autographs. And I just was overcome by this dreaded sadness of this is the last time that we'll see this squad. And Carrick mentioned it in his post-match. I'm going to cry. No, I'm not. But in his post-match, he said that it's sad that this is the last time we'll all be together. And it's true. You know, this squad was really good to watch and it was a really effective squad that played really good football. So it's really sad that that was the last time that we saw them together. Changes at foot, obviously, and we will see what comes of that. There's a bit of anxiety hidden within that, the what ifs. But yeah, just a bit sad the way that it ended. It's not the way that we all wanted it to.
It wasn't the way the cookie crumbled, was it? It wasn't what we wanted it to be. Tom, how are you feeling in as many words you want?
I'm already quite detached from it, to be honest. I was fuming after the result. I actually went down to the concourse a couple of minutes early and just watched the end on the screens because I was just like, I don't want to be up there for hearing them celebrating anything like that. As soon as it hit full time, I was just like, yeah, I'm gone. And
Tom was out there.
Well, I was back in bed by about 10:30, and my dad texted me like as soon as I got back, and he was like, "We're just leaving the car park now." I'm like, "I'm home." Time this well, but yeah, I've kind of detached myself from it. Like I say, I was fuming straight afterwards, and then I was just like, "Nah, I'm done with football." So I kind of like really just tried to like throw myself into the other sports I follow for the summer, and just kind of forget about that. You know, the playoff finals today. Personally, I don't care. I say I don't care which one of them goes up. I hope Coventry do it, but I won't be watching it. For me, the season's like completely over, so that's like a nothing game to me. But looking back on the last season, we've seen incredible progress under Michael Carrick, and I think going into next season, which is already what I'm kind of thinking about. I'm just kind of hoping the transfer news picks up a bit. we've got a lot to be optimistic about, and I'm really intrigued to see what the squad's going to look like at the start of next season. I think the last 2 windows we've recruited quite well. I think the recruitment strategy is spot on now, and I think January really encapsulated that the work that was going on between the coaching team and the recruitment team to identify these targets. And you're bringing in someone like Cameron Archer, the impact he's had, and then the sign of Aaron Ramsey on deadline day, another great impactful player that we've had in the run-in. It gives me a lot to be confident about within the summer. So it's just more looking ahead to next season now. I think this season's already kind of at the back of my mind and is something that I'm hoping that we'll have forgotten about by the start of next season. Like I say, I'm just looking at transfer news at the moment. I'm not exactly looking forward to the first game of the season, and I don't think I will until the last pre-season game, which is probably going to be at the Riverside, and then prepare for another long season in the Championship. But yeah, I think the overriding feeling really is optimism for next season and what we could accomplish.
Yeah, there definitely is that optimistic feeling, I think, from fans. And I'm very intrigued to see if we can go maybe one better or 2 better and see what happens for next year. But I think this year is a little bit different in comparison to probably previous years, where we have like one thing which I don't think we've had in a while, is that stability across the entire fan base, the playing staff, the coach, and above as well. And obviously we're having Kieran Scott in, then we also have a manager in Carrick who kind of wants to be here. There's no underlying murmurs that a manager is wanting to go elsewhere. There's not a huge turnover in players. Appreciate there's a few loans to deal with, and that is natural every season. You are looking to probably bring in 4 or 5 players every year, near enough. So for me, there's stability. There's also a really good opportunity for us to build on what we've done in the previous season. And although the second leg hurt, obviously watching it in a pub wasn't great. Obviously being abroad, and then you're surrounded by Man City fans one side who are buzzing. You've got Coventry fans on the other side, and then there's like one Boro fan in the entire pub, which isn't fun. That in itself was disappointing, but I think just the aspect of it can be painful now, but I think the bigger picture is that everything's a lot brighter than what we might think it is. And I hope that we can kind of improve on it next year and see what happens. I've always said, like, since I wrote like an article a couple of years ago around this new way of working, it'll take about 3 years to probably bear fruit, and this is the 3rd year of it. So I'm hoping we'll have like a really good bit of progress this year and see what we can do in the window. But also what I'm excited for is to see what our kits will look like in the next couple of weeks as well. So will it be like a retro, the retro green one, which I'm wearing now, or would it be a funky red one? Who knows? What we're going to do. I'm very intrigued by that. But I'm going to take us back to Coventry, and I know we won't spend too much on it because the season review show is what the people have came to see, and there's some fantastic things that we got lined up for it. But then, like, how would you assess the playoff semi-finals against Coventry?
The first leg, we obviously discussed it on the podcast. It was a really good defensive display from Boro that we haven't really seen under Michael Carrick. In fact, we haven't really seen it this season. So it was a big tick in the box that just hasn't really been ticked that often this season, that defensive stability and the concentration of those players that day to mark Gyökeres out of the game was really good. We saw Hackney drop back, help more out. Tommy Smith was probably a little bit more conservative in getting forward just to give us that stability at the back and to keep our shape. So defensively, it was a really good performance at the CBS. There was maybe a slight lack of balance in both sides of the game, defensively and offensively. Our XG was 0.88, which is certainly not nothing, but it's definitely under the standards that we've usually set under Michael Carrick. But perhaps there was a case of Boro not really wanting to overexert themselves in case of losing the game. I think it was still that game, that result was good, even though the outcome of the playoffs wasn't. I don't want to dabble in revisionism and say that first leg result was not good, because I think it was. The second leg was really disappointing because they shut us off completely. They did not give us a sniff. Every time the ball came in, it was headed or cleared straight back out. And I think it was always going to be a very, very tight contest between the two sides. It was never going to be full of goals. It was always, I predicted this before the game, that there was only going to be one goal in it for me. And I think if you play that game 10 times, that particular game, I think it's a 50-50 split between who wins, between Coventry and Boro. That's how tight I think it was. And in the end, we could not break them down. And it's really typical, isn't it? Coventry's first ever win at the Riverside, the first time that they'd won on Teesside since, I believe, 1993. And then also the first time under Michael Carrick that Boro had not scored at the Riverside. So talk about bad timing. That was incredibly bad timing. And in all honesty, I think my belief started to dissipate around 70 minutes, because they scored quite early into the second half, didn't they? And then my belief was completely wiped away around 75 minutes, where by that point I'd watched 15 minutes of the same rinse and repeat, try and get the ball in the box. Cal McFadden heads it back out, and we rinse and repeat, start it again. So it was just really difficult for Boro, and really disappointing in the end that we didn't show what we're really truly capable of.
Yeah, and the last 3 games, it's very rare that you play a side 3 times in a row, Tom. But I'm going to throw some stats at you and just to show you how tight these games were. So on the last day of the season, we drew 1-1. The XG for Boro was 0.73 to Coventry's 0.69. There was 3 shots on target for Boro. There was 2 shots for Coventry. Boro dominated possession like they did for the 3 games, 74% to 26%. The first leg at 0-0 away at Coventry, the XG for Coventry was 0.44. Boro doubled that at 0.88. Boro had 2 shots on target. Coventry didn't have a shot on target at all. Possession, Boro dominant again with the with 61% to 39. And then in the second leg, Middlesbrough bettered the XG again for the 3rd game in a row to 1.35 versus Coventry's 1.07. We had 1 shot on target. They had 2 shots on target. Boro 68 possession to 32. So a similar pattern possession-wise. Low XG scoring games. It was incredibly tight, but you always think that there was like a mistake which was going to dictate these type of games.
Yeah, I think I said it in the preview show for the second leg. I believe it was the one that Matt was on. Yeah, I could just see us having to commit a little bit too much from playing at home. And my worry on that show was that Coventry were going to hit us on the break and get a goal, and it would be 1-0. And it's the saddest I've been to be right about something. But yeah, that's the prediction this season. I wish I hadn't got right. So yeah, I mean, the first game, very much like a chess match. It was difficult for both teams to fashion any chances. I thought we had a good result going into the second leg, but as you mentioned there, all 3 games were very similar in terms of XG. We might have had the more possession, but they were good on the counter attack, and ultimately it's their strength that's paid off and not ours.
And like with like obviously their strength as well in terms of like getting you on the break and having that box midfield in the second game, you know, that allows you to try and take advantage of mistakes in itself. But do you think balance of the 2 legs? Do you think Coventry were probably the deserving side to go through?
I don't know. I think you can make an argument either way. You know, if we put away a couple of our chances in the first leg, if Akpom hadn't hit the bar, and you know we're coming away from that with a 1-0 win or something, then you know it's a completely different story. On the basis of the second leg, I can't argue for anything other than, you know, Coventry deserved to go through. I think especially in the second half, they came out and they looked like a team who wanted to go through. We didn't. And that I think is where they won the game second half. We never got going. And whatever was said to them in the dressing room just seemed to fire them up.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting couple of games, really. I think from obviously the playoffs with Coventry going through, were the deserving probably from the creative chance of taking advantage of the mistakes. But I think what really interested me like over the last 3 games, and I think it's very rare that you play someone 3 times in a row, because there's going to have similarities. You're going to have nullification of attacks and systems. And what really interested me over the 3 games that Boro played 3 different systems. In the first game, it was like more of like a 3-2-5 kind of, where you had Lenihan, McNair, and then you had like your 2 in midfield, and then you had Smith very, very out wide, and then you had like a 5 up front, which you can kind of argue it's a 3-2-5 really. But in the second game, which in the first game of the second of the playoffs, was we actually became very defensive and opted to play more of a 4. So we switched like a 4-2-4 with our wing backs playing probably the deepest they've played for the majority of the season. And I thought we had a bit more, and obviously we narrowed our wingers to play and have more of an emphasis in the central areas and like the half space, and that's really key. Really, I think that fully nullified Coventry's attacking. When we were saying earlier, Tom, around a true Rakpom taking that chance, if we did score, the whole game state changes, and then Boro probably go on to maybe win the tie. I just thought we were really defensively solid that game, and it was just one of those things where if we put it in the back of the net, then I think that was it. But then in the third game, we shifted again, and we shifted to more of like a 2-4-4, and appreciate you can either say it's like a 4-2-4, or this is how we kind of set up in like the average positions. In the 2-4-4, and the one big difference we had again for Coventry in the first 2 games to now was how deep they dropped, because I think they expected Boro to have way more possession than we anticipated it to be. They wanted us to probably play with a lot more width because they were trying to control the central areas, and they introduced a box midfield, which was the first time they did that for the 3 games. And I think the aim is, when you do play like a 3-5-2 or that box midfield, is that just the centre area of the pitch. And if you try and control that, and if Boro make a mistake, you've got 4 players straight away to kind of bomb forward and counter attack you and create an advantage. And they do that in that game against us. But there was like an idea for me, and this is just obviously an idea in itself. This is not me kind of saying Michael Carrick's wrong. This isn't me saying Michael Carrick should change the complete way of managing the team. But I had an idea and a thought of how Boro played in that second leg, and I thought we could have slightly tweaked our system from that game. So like we had like a 2-4-4, but I was thinking we could have probably played with a 3-2-5. And the 3-2-5 is just a small change. It's around positional play as well, but you essentially just put Tommy Smith into more of like the half space region, have like a 3 at the back. You play with width of Giles and Force. Then you've also got McGree, Akpom in those half spaces, and then Cameron Archer up top. But like the 3-2-5 in itself is really ideal for a side that wants to have like possession of the ball. And that what it allows you to do when you do play this type of system, I've just kind of made a different view of it to kind of emphasize what a 3-2-5 would look if it was like in a perfect world. But that allows you to have like an occupation of like all the 5 lateral zones. So like the wide space, half space, central space, half space, wide space. And then what it allows you to do is have a lot of good spacing and balance between teams, allows you to create overloads and have security in like those deep central areas as well, which Coventry had in that game. And I think the best, it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, really. So it gives you like the tight control when you're in defense. It allows you to like exploit defensive transitions, allows you to like hit the ball dynamically forward. It allows you to essentially just establish control. I think that's what Boro needed to do. And to be honest, I don't think we had control of that game for long periods. And I just think if we were able to have that 3 and then play with 2 8s ahead, nullify that box, I think we were able to probably create more like those fake transitions which we spoke about in the game. And I think teams really do tend to struggle with that type of movement. But all it was, it's a slight tweak. The idea is really just, can we try to invert our centre back, our full back, instead of maybe utilising them at wide. And if you're looking at like a Man City team or a Pep side, like Man City side with Pep, he uses fullbacks, but ours is more of like a central, like these as like centre backs, and then he brings them in. But for us, all you're doing really is just putting Smith in, and that just created different angles for us to try and get in that central area and then push through the transition and then hopefully get in the half space and create more chances. But it wasn't to be, really. We didn't really do much in that second game, and Middlesbrough went out, and it was very sad, and it is what it is. But should we move on to the season review, sure? Because this is what the fans have came to see. And to be honest, I thought let's maybe cheer ourselves up. Let's have a look at some bold predictions, because at the start of the season we do a season preview show, and we go, this might happen, who's going to finish where, who's going to score the most goals. We just give our bold predictions, and we had a look back at these and we thought they were really funny, so we thought we'd share them with you as well. So here are our bold predictions for the 2022-2023 season. Tom, what's going to be your bold prediction this season?
I've got a good one for this season. We finally become a threat from corners and live up to our set piece specialist reputation that we have on Sky.
Mine is, I think Lenihan will outscore Duncan Watmore this season.
I've gone for that a Boro striker will reach 15 goals.
But not 20 though. Not the Bernie Slaven
No,
record.
I'm not. No, I'm not stretching it. I can't bring myself to stretch it that far. Lenihan's gonna outscore Watmore.
To be fair, I mean, I was adamant that he would have probably scored Watmore this year. Well, to be fair, Duncan Watmore's not here anymore, so
I was close to mine.
Yeah, you were close.
I was warm with mine. I wasn't confident enough to say 20, but yeah, I was almost there.
Mine aged like milk. It was like me picking Sammy Amiobi as a surprise package last year.
To be fair, Tom, you could have used recency bias there and just said that since we scored a set piece in the last day of the season, we have now become that set piece team.
Well, I mean, our first goal under Carrick came from a set piece. Thought at that point it might have had potential, and then just never since.
Yeah. We've absolutely had a stinker there, haven't we? Like all three of us. Well, to be fair, to be fair, yeah, you said 15.
you two have.
To be honest, though, no one could have imagined Chuba Akpom scoring breaking the record. Not a chance. And to be fair, he nearly doubled the prediction as well, which is also insane. Early goods, which kind of leads me on to more of like a higher point of the season. What were your high points of the 2022-23 season, Tom? Is there a specific performance, a moment, a chips and gravy? Is it what was your high point of the season?
Oh, my high pint was also at the same place. But, it was Sheffield United away. Went to that game. Great performance, great atmosphere. No chip butties, thankfully. High pint, and then just.
What made this pint so good? I want to know. What made this pint so good?
It was a Carlin and a Spoons, all right. Like it wasn't.
Oh no, that's shocking. Shocking.
But we all remember that game. Hell of a performance from Boro to go up the team that was second in the league, looking like they were potentially slipping at that point, and just absolutely play them off the park. It was fantastic, and then just to really top off the evening, they closed the M1 coming out of Sheffield, so we had to take a detour through Wakefield with a Boro bus behind us. Got to drive past the best shop in Wakey, Tesco, and yeah, just overall great night for football, that one.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm going to say it was mine as well, the Sheffield United away one. I thought we were amazing that second half. And I just thought, God, we could go on a proper run, even more so, and then maybe challenge for the second spot. But we kind of fell away at the end. But the second one, I was going to say Norwich at home. I thought that was the one game where I was absolutely blown away at how good we were. That first half was insanely good. I couldn't believe what I was watching. So they were my two high points. Dana Moore, what was yours?
I'm going to echo what you mentioned about Sheffield United there, and I think that was significant within the season, wasn't it? Because at that point we were chasing down Sheffield United, and we effectively kick-started a bit of a bad period for them based on that game. That second half performance was fantastic. The turnaround, Chuba's goal, the counter-attacking, it felt really, really important within the season. And obviously in the end it didn't mean anything in terms of the actual outcome of the campaign, but you've got to celebrate those moments, don't you? I think there's a belief in football that these celebrations have to equal success, be it a title winning campaign or promotion or safety from the threat of relegation. But if those moments were nothing because they didn't end in success, then we'd be miserable. So that's the joy of football. Those moments like that, those games like that. Carrick celebrating at the end, it felt really, really important. And there's a few Sheffield United fans that have dipped back into that podcast that we recorded after that. Little do they know that the more that they comment and poke fun at Boro for that game not actually equaling anything, they're actually lining our pockets some more because that video is monetized. So keep commenting, basically. But yeah, I'm going to say the Blackburn game away from home. I love that interval period between Christmas and New Year in football, the 26th, the Boxing Day game, and it's usually on the 29th as well. I went to that game and obviously we were a goal down. We came back from behind and it featured what is now my favourite goal of the season. I know I said that Isaiah Jones' goal against Blackpool was my favourite. It's now Riley McGree's lovely cushion mid-air volley against Blackburn. That was a fantastic goal. And that felt really significant within itself because we'd not long come back from the World Cup break. And it was a team, I think Blackburn honestly were higher than us in the table at that point. They were maybe about third or fourth, something like that. It was a bit of a false position, let's be honest. But it felt like a really significant performance in which that was probably the point in which I thought, this is a really, really good team. Beyond the Norwich game, obviously, that we went into the World Cup break with that win. But that Blackburn game, I think, was really good. And the away end was fantastic as well. So, yeah, I'm gonna say that's the high point, just to give a little bit of difference from that Sheffield United game.
And you've seen us win at Ewood Park as well, Dylan, which is also another high point as well. Last season where we went and I think we had a shot on target that night and
we were late.
And
I nearly walked into the men's toilets because I was following you too.
I mean, yeah, that was a bit weird, but you know, we got past that as well as friends, and yeah, we grew that day. We grew that night, you know, as people. And obviously, the McDonald's was shot on the way home as well, wasn't it? So that really rounded everything off.
God, that was an eventful day.
It was, but for all the highs, there has to be lows, and we have a low point of this season as well. So, Tom, what was your low point of the season? Where did you feel the most low?
No, it's just happened. The second leg of the playoff semi-final. After that, general feeling was just like, I'm done with football. Like, I don't even want to see another football until, well, probably yesterday when I played at the Riverside again, and I forgot all about that. But it was just the feeling after that was just generally like, I can't be arsed. Like, I don't even want to think about next season and stuff like that. It was just not a great feeling after that game, and I don't think that compares to any other game of the season for me.
Yeah, it was a bit of a signal on it. And Dana Moll, what was your low point of the season?
I'm going to say Huddersfield away because, again, at that point, we were chasing down Sheffield United. It felt, and I might have even said this on one of the episodes, that it was inevitable that we were going to overtake them at some point. It was just about whether or not we could sustain that and maintain that position. Obviously, in the end, that aged rather badly because we didn't get second at any point during the season. Didn't overtake Sheffield United. But that game, I know that in the end, Huddersfield were charting much better under Neil Warnock than previously in the season. They were one of the worst performing teams in the league before he came in and did his thing. But still, a better performing Huddersfield should not have been taking points from a Boro side that at that point had won 8 out of their last 10 games. We had lost to West Brom and then drew to Stoke. They were the exceptions to that. So going into that game, and we were 1-0 up as well, the capitulation within an 8-minute period in that second half was essentially the burning paper towards our second place hopes. That was what shut the door on it for me. And when you follow that game up with a matchup against champions elect as it was at that point, Burnley, the bounce back ability is going to be really tested there. And I did not expect Boro to win that game against Burnley. So back-to-back defeats, really significant within the season, significant within our automatic promotion hopes. And that was just a really, really disappointing game that we lost because of that 8-minute period of complete chaos. And it was shit. It was shit.
Yeah. I hate you, Neil Warnock. Why'd you do that to us again? I just hate losing to that man. And obviously that is mine. Losing to Huddersfield. not talking about it anymore, and everyone knows why. But in terms of signings of the season as well, every year we have a signing of the season, and there's some good, there's some bad. Aaron Connolly was horrendous last year, but our signing of the season, Tom, who are you going to go for? Because we brought in a lot of people this year. Recruitment was pretty much spot on for the most part, but who gets your crown for this year?
For me, even though he's let down my bets consistently for most of the season, it's Darragh Lenihan. I just feel like as a defender, he's everything we've been wanting in a signing for the last few years. Managers are coming in and complain about lack of leadership in the squad, and Neil Warnock brings in Grant Hall and his teeth that are far too white for a centre half in the Championship, and then he's not the answer to it. And we've tried a few times to find the answer to that, but I feel like Darragh Lenihan has answered that well. He was, it was a bit of a coup picking him up from Blackburn after he's just left there as their captain, well liked there for a number of years, and start of the season, I don't think anyone looked good in that Wilder system. But he's just grown into that role and into the team so much over the course of the season, where he would be a massive miss if he wasn't in the team. And I don't know if going into next season, Howson will be a consistent starter. He's more than capable of replacing him as captain and as and when he's needed.
Yeah, he has been an exceptional signing, hasn't he? I feel like I echo everything that you say there, Tom, around what he brought to the group and how he's continuously improved. Moving to a back four has probably helped him significantly as well. And, it's just, I think, helped him come on even more so. And hopefully we see more and more of how good he is next year as well. Definitely echo your thoughts on him taking over Howson as captain as well, which would be interesting to see. But Dana, who gets your signing of the season crown?
I'm going to go with Ryan Giles. I don't think Boro could have cherry-picked a player more perfect for them than Ryan Giles in the summer. When you think back to that Chris Wilder system, wanting a really high attacking output chance creator in that position, Ryan Giles was there and available. And I think it speaks volumes that even all three of us, I believe, put us in our little transfer list in the summer, which we do purely for fun. That was such a struggle bus. Yeah, for fun. And he was just he was just absolutely perfect for this system. So I know that defensively at times he's been questioned, but I do think that towards the end of the season, he was much better defensively than what he was given credit for. I think he definitely improved his defensive contributions to this team, and obviously 11 assists this season, the most assists since Adama Traore back in 2017-18. Just good to have somebody like that. And I wrote this in my blog after the game against Coventry. It's good to have players that we once really hoped that we would have. Looking enviously at teams that have these assets that we have owned this season, that I think is really good to have that sort of opinion of these players. So yeah, I've gone for Ryan Giles for me.
Do you think we'll see him again in the Boro shirt next season? Dave?
I think we've got a good chance. When I looked at his career history, there's a lot of loans: Shrewsbury, Coventry, Rotherham, Cardiff, ourselves, just to name a few. I think it's probably time now for Wolves to really evaluate whether they want to play him or whether they want to sell him. And I think he's at the age now at 23 where he probably just wants to go out and play football and find his home, if you will. So I do think we've got a decent chance of getting him back and seeing him back here next season.
Yeah, I think on our season preview show, or the one where we spoke transfers, I think I mentioned on that one as well, where I said it's about time that he got a permanent move. And this could be the year. Who knows? I'd be intrigued to see where he ends up. But if he wants to create chances and and be a good left back for a team in red, then look no further than us. But I want to go for someone who signed in January, and it's Cameron Archer. I think he was absolutely amazing for us at the second half of the season. To stack up what he did in terms of goal contributions. He was kind of like the final piece of the puzzle under Carrick, and he just made us into a free scoring Boro side, which is unheard of. And his ability is so good, and he's only going to go one way, and it's up, in my opinion. And I think that the Coventry games, you can argue that he wasn't really seen much, and he didn't really impact the game as we wanted him to. And that is just, and to do a football cliche, is part and parcel of football, where you just not you sometimes have weaknesses against certain teams and strengths against others. They just nullified him, but they nullified him in so many different ways. With the three at the back, and then also putting Kelly on him as well at times, and then just trying to nullify his impact. And it's just one of those things. But for me, sign of the season, even though he's only played half of it, he's just been tremendous, and I can only see him going to a Premier League club next year. Unfortunately, whether that's at Aston Villa, he could go to a Burnley, which I think would work really well for him. So we'll see on that one. But in terms of Player of the Year, this was a bit of an easy one for us, so I can feel like I can announce this one. But our Player of the Year for the Boro Breakdown in the 2022-23 season is Chuba Akpom. There we go. Chuba Akpom, congratulations. You are the recipient of our Player of the Year award. So congratulations to you. But 29 goals for Chuba this season, unheard of. Burnley Slavers record has been banished, and now Chuba will be setting up a stall in the Cleveland Centre from next week. So get your books signed. But the question I've got for you guys, can he go again next season? And will he be able to replicate what he's done? So, Tom, what do you think? Can Chuba go again and maybe hit that 20 goal a season mark?
I feel like he could in this system. I feel like this year he's definitely had the right attitude towards it. Always learning about his teammates, and you can really kind of see that effort. And I think that he could replicate it next season. There's always a bit of a risk that he won't. I think we had a similar thing with Isaiah Jones last season compared to this season as well. Whereas last season, getting to the summer, we had quite a few teams linked with him, and we were all like, nah, we wouldn't ever want to get rid of Jones in this system. He's done so well. And then this year, he hasn't done as well. His stock's probably gone down a little bit. And you're looking back on last season, that was the prime time to kind of cash in at that point, especially in this kind of new sustainable model that we have. So I think there's always going to be like a question there throughout the summer of, do we cash in on Chuba now? Because, I mean, looking at the season he's just had, the age that he's at the moment, he's probably not going to get too many chances from here, more from here, to play Premier League football. So if a team from the Premier League came in for him for the figures that have been reported, we might have to kind of let him go and then reinvest that. But I think if he was to stay here, then he's got the right attitude and the right sort of character to replicate that next season.
Would you sell him if you got 15 million for him, Tom?
I mean, I'd try and negotiate higher, but I'd probably accept that it would be difficult to keep hold of him at that sort of offer or higher. I think just for the sake of his career and also looking at the model we've adopted now over the last couple of years, the sales that we made and spent, Tav, and your potentially Akpom, that all works really well in this sort of sustainable model. And you've seen success prior to it with Brentford as a great example of it. And as sad as it is, they will become like fond of players. They've had quite a few decent strikers over the years, so much so that I can't think of many off the top of my head now. But like Morpie played for them. I'm right in that, before he played for Brighton, and Watkins, that was it, yeah. And then they've ended up with Ivan Toney, who's obviously got them to the Premier League and has become a figure in that team up until obviously what's recently happened with him. But it never seemed to last more than around a year at a time when they were in the Championship. It'd be like they sell a striker for big money, then bring someone else in, and then they have the same success, and then rinse and repeat. So if we had to do the same thing, I think all I'd expect is that we, try and get the same results from that, and we're not just kind of like pocketing the money and not replacing him with anyone kind of decent or anything like that.
We'll reinvest him in you, Tom. We'll play you up top. We'll play the
don't do that.
Striker into feet.
Unless you want Uche Mark II, don't do that.
But on to with Dana. Well, one, can he go again? And then two, what value is he, in your opinion, for Boro? Like in terms of evaluations go, is there a specific fee that you would try and command if he was to go?
Oh, that's difficult, I think, because not only is it their probable actual value, but it's also the value to the team. They're not... Any potential suitors wouldn't be playing for potential because Tuber's, I wouldn't say in the prime of his career, because prime is, it could be whenever, it could be whatever age. But he's 27 now, isn't he? So I think you probably just pay him for what you've seen this season, and plus adding on top of it what he's worth to Middlesbrough. I don't know, to be honest. So I'll park that there. The first question about can he repeat it? I think if Giles comes back, or if we replace Giles effectively in that we have someone that is a consistent chance creator, then I would be fairly confident. Obviously, there's more chance creators in this team than Giles, but them two linked up really well the season just gone. Only Victor Gyökeres and Gustavo Hamer linked up. Well, actually, they're on the same 5 goals that Ryan Giles provided for Tuber Pom, 5 goals that Hamer provided for Victor Gyökeres. So I think that's a really important dynamic between the two of them, because as Tuber came out and said, he studies Ryan Giles' game, and that definitely reaped the rewards. I mean, he'll probably, if a Ryan Manning comes in, for example, I know he's a free agent and would be a very good replacement for Giles. If he comes in, then I'm sure Tuber will study his game just as much as he studied Giles. So I think in this system, the way of playing, I could definitely see him maybe not hitting the same heights, but I could definitely see him getting into double figures and taking it from there. But also at the back of my mind is that very pessimistic Boro fan where it's like, this is too good to be true and it won't happen again. So I really don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Only Tuber will know that answer that. But in terms of like him and what he's done this year, I think it's absolutely sensational to come in, switch positions as well halfway through the season, and just flourish is an incredible feat. And congratulations to him. And I'm sure whatever happens to him in the summer, whether he's at the club or not, I feel like he's going to be. He's just a massive asset to us and be an asset to any team that he plays for, because I think he's just in a really good moment in his career, and credit to him. Fantastic. But let's move on to podcast moment of the season. So, we have some great moments on this podcast, whether it's in episodes or it could be out of the episodes. It could be us walking down the street. It could be anything at all. But, we have podcast moments. But yeah, what was our podcast moment of the season, guys? Because we have loads that happen, really. It could be a funny moment or not. But is there anything that you're specifically proud of? Dana, what's your podcast moment of the season?
Yeah, I'm going to say, just because it's obviously close to home and personal to me, raising 3,000 and exceeding that actually for the Motor Neurone Disease Association, the fundraiser that we ran for the past 2 seasons. Again, I keep saying it, but just a huge thank you to everybody that has donated. It's just amazing to see that amount of money being raised for such an amazing charity. So yeah, personally, I think that one is definitely my highlight of this season. And the FCAs, of course, we'll get onto that. I'll probably let you two talk about that a little bit more, but yeah, the money that we've raised and the awareness as well, just brilliant for the Motor Neurone Disease Association. They are a brilliant charity.
Yeah, it really is. And that's me pitch our £3,000 target as well. So I know you mentioned it as well, Dee, but we just do want to say a big thank you to everyone that's donated to us. It's a huge achievement for us. And we just want to say, like, the money that we've raised goes so far with this charity. and it's just been a pleasure to raise money for them as well. We'll try and continue that next season, but we will be giving the money over at the end of the season. But also, if you want us to help surpass the target even more, you can also buy some Boro Breakdown merch. It comes with the Malt Curse t-shirt, which if you want to curse all your friends with you, I would recommend getting that. We've got some mugs, some teas, and loads of fun stuff as well. And you can get that on the T-Side website. So it's www.t-side.co.uk. Then you'll see the Boro Breakdown stuff on there. And T-Side Tom is such a great guy. And also, if you just wanted to donate, if you're looking at watching us on YouTube and have your phone handy, you can press it, go on the QR code as well. But also, the link is in the bio of this podcast and also in the YouTube descriptions below. But Tom, I already know what your prediction is because I'm looking at my notes, but I think we should have a discussion about it anyway. But the FCAs,
I was going to say you spoiled mine in your intro because it was when we were walking down the street the other day. But the FCAs were
such a random mention. Us walking down the street.
Well, when we go and get coffee, sometimes one of us might trip over, or it's just little moments like that. A podcast is more than a podcast. It could be in our Telegram chat with over 360 Boro fans chatting everything but Boro. You can free to join just by clicking the link below. Just another push for that, and you get all of your news from that as well just by joining the chat. But anyway, Tom, walking down the street is your moment of the year, is it?
Yeah, and then the FCAs is a close second as well. I just think to be nominated and go to that event with some very recognisable names there as well. It was just incredible. For a bit of background for anyone listening or watching the first time, I was on Boro Breakdown. I was in the kitchen at work. Jonny comes in. He was like, "Oh, Elliot's off tonight. Do you want to fill in?" And then we went to like a small room at the back of Teesside Uni it was Dana that was off, and then it was I was filling in with Jonny and Elliot. But small room at the back of Teesside Uni and recorded on Snowball mic back then.
Yeah,
Snowball
mics,
so in that time to have gone from there to recording at the studio at Red Army Radio, and then getting our current setup now and StreamYard, and that it's grown that much to the point where we've been nominated for an award. We've been on like ITV and stuff on the run up to it, and had some great coverage. It didn't faze me at the time, but looking back on it now, pretty surreal.
It was good, wasn't it? To be nominated for the award. I remember I was sitting on the table with the Birmingham City lot, which was quite good. And we just, it was a great night for us as well. Obviously going to Spoons afterwards and just having a drink to be like, oh, we didn't win, but oh well, it was great to be nominated. That was also great. And obviously Matt joined us on the night, who does all of our graphics. So shout out to Matt for helping us out for that as well. But yeah, FCS has to be the podcast one of the season for us. I think if we can go and get nominated again next year and hopefully get one better or more and try and win the whole thing, that'd be great for us. So just want to thank everyone for voting for us as well, because we really appreciate that. In terms of our listeners and viewing figures, they've been off the charts for most of the season. So just want to say thank you for that as well. But as we move on and to the award, really, that I think everyone's here for today is the knee slide of the season. We introduced that this year, the knee slide club, and there's been some wonderful, wonderful knee slides. With goals comes knee slides. And Tom, who gets your knee slides of this season? Plenty of goals to choose from, plenty of knee slides to look at. So who gets yours?
So I've gone with Hayden Hackney against Norwich. I was looking at quite a few different Cameron Archer knee slides where he does the whole bow off his back thing. Feel like that really kind of adds something to it. But that knee slide right there, proper kind of like power slide. And you could just see the amount that's gone into that. Scoring your first goal at the Riverside, there was a lot of kind of like passion in that knee slide. So got to be that one.
Yeah, it's a good knee slide as well. You can definitely see that he's been practicing that one in the changing rooms. Could be,
like,
Yeah, well, to be fair, they could, like get some grease down or like maybe put some
True.
ice in the.
I can tell you right now, because from playing there last night, there's a bit at the back of the changing room which is all AstroTurf, and there's enough there to practice knee slides on. So it wouldn't surprise me if they had been having knee slide training in that dressing room.
Can you imagine?
Put some knee
That's a
pads
funny
on so you
thought.
don't get the burn from the AstroTurf.
I mean,
as
we
well.
all did it, so like the temptation must be there.
Well, it's got to be absolutely. Dana, you were the advocate for the knee slides, but who gets yours?
Easy one for me. I've mentioned it many times on this podcast. It's Mr. Marcus Force against Blackpool. I was there. I got it on camera as well. It's just an amazing knee slide. He swoops, he lands it well. Hackney jumps on his back. It was a fantastic day. Fantastic knee slide that should never have been because it was a dive and it shouldn't have been a penalty, but it was a fantastic knee slide nonetheless. So that one gets my crowning of Dana's knee slide of the season.
Yeah, I think I'm going to round us off for knee slide of the season, and I'm going to go with Cameron Archer against Norwich. And I think there's a few reasons for this one. So what he's able to do, he's casual. There you go. It's the moment where it's just there. It's just want to stop it there. So what he's doing is he's just a casual little run in, and then he goes, you know what? Here comes the ball. But he's not thinking about the ball, he's thinking about the slides. And it's just all about the slow knee slide, but also the ability to get the ball now out as well. And for me, I think that's something to be proud of. That. And, I think he's going to go back to Aston Villa and maybe show all of his friends that one. But for me, that's probably the one of the season that I'm most proud of.
If Aaron's watching, Aaron, let Cameron know that was a good knee slide.
Yeah, so Aaron, I don't know if you are watching as well. If you want to do a knee slide and send them in, you can send them in at theborobreakdown@hotmail.com.
Get all the archers doing knee slide.
And to be fair to the listeners and the viewers, well, if you want to send us in your knee slides, we're not like You've Be Framed where we can give you £250 per knee slide, but it would just be quite funny. So if you want to do that, then absolutely go for it. If you could do it, send it in the Telegram chat, because that'd even be more funny. But yeah, guys, just to round this show off, we have some unreal moments on this podcast, and people probably aren't aware that we pretty much do this in one take, and things happen. We edit stuff. This podcast, we've had to edit stuff out probably because just mad stuff has happened. We have bloopers and all that kind of fun stuff. But we've got a highlight reel for you to look at of what we've done this season. And I just want you to enjoy this 4 minutes of highlights. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is my Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
I would rather us be patient and get the right manager than jump into another one like we did with Tony Pulis, for example, and have him on speed dial and be like, hi, it's Steve. Do you want to take the job?
Hi, Steve. Also, do you have any milk? I can give you back tomorrow. It's all right.
The third one as well from NG, which is the worst one, but I don't even want to break that one down because I think you can just say one word for that, and that was absolutely crap.
That's two words.
That's 2 words. Yeah.
How would you assess the situation with Paddy and Dykesdale? Who fits the role better? Tom, do you want to quickly say yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no to McNair or Dykesdale?
I think it's something I
absolutely butchered that, didn't I, as well?
Someone gave him the ball and he just pretty much turned on the spot and took one of the Bristol players out of the game. I didn't see him fall over, but...
The praise and place is the place we give praise to a player, a fan, chips and gravy, chips curry, Dana's hairdresser, Thomas Massews, the Palmo I had last night, which was absolutely banging, Dana's lovely pink hair, and more. It's the praise and place. It's where we praise everything. Dana, who gets your place in the praise and place this week? I feel like I already know the answer to this.
You don't?
I do.
Riley McRae,
isn't it?
No. I thought you were going to say Matt Crooks. It was like Harry Potter and the Wizard of Oz. Like Oz is in Australia, obviously. Because it was like he was picking up so many good positions. That was terrible, wasn't it?
I just don't know where you're going with that. Like Harry Potter and the Wizard of Oz.
It's the most ambitious crossover since Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
I think it's actually Crooks' position that I'm probably most worried about, because Crooks does pick up a lot of yellow cards.
Speaking of Matt Crooks, sponsored by Clinton's Cards, he's our only right centre mid. Tom, who gets your place? Well, is it Dorothy? The Tin Man, the Lion? Are you going to keep with the Wizard of Oz theme, or are you going to?
It's Dorothy Lenihan.
I was loving that Dorothy Lennon. Where the?
It should have been Dorothy, but I'm over to her.
What is going on?
Oh, God.
But I think probably the most entertaining part of that game was when Rory the Lion took a penalty
Yeah,
at
shoot
half
fell
time and his shoe fell off again.
He looked so dejected walking off after that as well, by the way. He had his head down when he was walking off. Kids were trying to shake hands with him. He didn't want any of it.
Can we talk about Kieran Scott's pink flamingo tie, please? The fact that he was aiming subtle snipes at Chris Wilder whilst sporting that tie was absolutely excellent. Bet your head of football can't do that.
I'm in agreement with all two of these as well, because all three.
Who's the third person?
Tom, do you have any positives that you want to take?
No, not really. No, what?
Right, let's move on. He looked really solid. You could build a house on him, as I did. The tweet is as I did build a detached house on Lee Roberts. Tom, on the defeat, do you think it should have been a defeat? Do you think it was a correct result? Because we had some big chances yesterday.
No, I mean the result's lying.
There is a football quiz on there. We're going. I'm not going to be wearing this pelican tie, but it's a really good night.
It's flamingo.
A flamingo. It's the same thing. It is the same thing.
Sums up the entire kind of history at Bramble Lane, not Bramble, but
the Bramble Lane.
0.02 expected goals from set players, which is like having packet of crisp. It's just air, which is just packet of crisp anyway. That's just what Walkers do nowadays.
It's Tony Pulis. We had Aidan Flint. Really, he should have been the first Boro player with 20 goals since Bernie Slavin in that Tony Pulis season. It shouldn't have been left to Akpom to do.
Tom, do you want to take this one?
If he unmutes his mic,
if you unmute yourself, Tom.
It was in full swing then.
Did not even realise that there. I need to go back.
It's like a Zoom call today. It's like a Zoom call. It's not the end of the world, right?
I'm feeling more like that this morning. I've had to rip up the Carrick-Out banner that I already had made after the match yesterday. But
this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like Boro Match Day Chatter in a pod.
Come on, Boro! Sorry, I had to end it like that. Of the Boro Breakdown.
It's all fun and games on this podcast. Up the Boro Breakdown. There's some quality moments in that as well, isn't there? And there's obviously stuff I've put in there, but there's some absolute classic stuff. We've had some great moments, even on this podcast as well. I think one of my personal highlights as well is when, I know it sounds funny, but then when you're on teas and your voice broke, that would crack.
Oh no, don't! That was so bad.
I've got that clip right now. I haven't really. I don't I'm joking. But yeah, it's some great moments, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed that as well. But that's it from us. Another season done and another season in the championship for Boro. But are we done? Are we done for the summer? Of course we're not. We've got a lot of content coming out over the next few weeks. Hopefully some lowdowns. A new series which we're going to be releasing called maybe we're thinking about names, but Lawn and Away. Maybe, who knows? You'll have to keep subbed for that one. Rate this podcast as well. Give us 5-star rating. Help us get found by other Boro fans. Switch your alarms on. And those little bells as well, because that is great, because we'll have so much stuff come out over the next couple of days, weeks and months. But for right now, this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was all your 2022-2023 season review in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.